Hello, Tom Barnett here again with another story behind the illustration. Here, one that, for the first time, puts all five of our competing superpowers in the same image as we contemplate superpower brand wars among them for the hearts and minds of an emergent global majority middle class. The key here, as you can imagine, making sure we got the structural symbols right for each superpower and somehow placing the middle class at the middle of it all while projecting the air of competition. Pretty ambitious, right? Some background points. It's not just the notion that the middle class has expanded absolutely around the world. It's also the notion that the really impoverished portion of humanity has likewise been greatly reduced. Even so, the hard numbers tell an amazing story. A few years after I was born, 1965, we're talking about less than 1 billion belonging to the global middle class. Then projecting just a few years ahead of today, we're looking at about a 6.5-fold increase in absolute numbers to just under 5 billion. An amazing outcome from modern US-style globalization. Another way to break down that growth is by region. Clearly, the peak globalization of the last 25 to 30 years has been about rising Asia, not the West. When you look at the Americas, almost all the recent increase is located in the South, Latin America. And when you project ahead, you realize that the future growth is going to likewise be concentrated in the South, where the demographics are still good relative to the aging, demographically collapsing North. When I first discussed the image I was looking for with the Nuttles, this is actually what I referenced, the Hungry Hippos table game, with the white balls representing the Global South's emerging middle class and the 5 superpowers all competing like the hippos in gobbling them up. And that's pretty much what Sarah Nuttall gave me in her first attempt. So she really set the tone on this one. Instead of the hungry hippos, we have buildings representing the 5 superpowers. The fought-over middle class stands in the middle, wondering which way to turn. Still, I wasn't happy at first, even though this met my expectations and my instructions. First, I couldn't be sure on the buildings. Okay, that one's easy, that's China. I'm going to say that one's Europe. Next, maybe the United States. Going to go with India here, which leaves Russia here, I guess, but I'm not sure. Second, instead of the hippo's heads bobbing out, we have these disembodied arms offering money. I didn't like that at all, really. The money offering seemed misdirected here, as the 5 superpowers are fighting over that market, not giving it money. So I thought it was kind of just kind of backwards there on that score. So with my critiques offered, Jim's first cut draft got us closer. The buildings more clear in their imagery. That's clearly the U.S. Capitol. Been there many times. That's obviously India's Taj Mahal, was just there with the missus. Next is some castle in Europe. Toured a few of those over the years. Then Russia's Kremlin, did that in 1984. Then China's Forbidden City, did that in 2004. So yeah, I've been around over the years. I've even seen both Lenin and Mao's embalmed bodies to boot. Second, I like the placement of the putative middle class, stuck in the middle but contemplating different roads, different directions. So overall, much better. On to the Red Team review. Even with the star and the decent approximation of the Kremlin's castle-like walls, I asked for and got St. Basil's instead, because that's the iconic image most foreigners recognize. Also, it was finally made clear to me that the roads, quote unquote, from each building towards that middle class population were really made up of each power's paper currency laid out like some sort of green brick road, at least in terms of the American pathway. Which gets us to the final version. A good long way from hungry hippos, but evocative in just the way I was hoping for. So I was very happy in the end. I think this is a great illustration. And that's the story behind this illustration. As always, we love it when people buy the book, when they recommend the book, when they praise the book online. I and my Throughline colleagues, we feel very passionate about this work. Please consider subscribing to my Substack newsletter. And see you next time, next illustration.